Okay, today will be a review over graphing and writing equations. These are some formulas, again, that are not given to you on the air test, so they'll be formulas you need to memorize. If I want to write an equation that has a slope of -3, goes through the ordered pair 4, 2, I'll need to use my point slope form, which is y minus y1 is equal to m parentheses x minus x1. Remember that your slope is m, and then your x coordinates, your x coordinate and your y coordinate are your x1 and your y1. So 4 is going to be my x1, 2 is going to be my y1. So when I plug this in, I'm going to go y minus my y coordinate, which is 2, is equal to -3 parentheses x minus my x coordinate, which is 4. From there I can distribute, get y minus 2 is equal to -3x plus 12, and then add the 2 to the other side, y is equal to -3x plus 14. The second one that we have, number 2, right next to it is similar, although the first thing I need to do is find my slope, so I got to go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, if I name my ordered pairs 1 and 2, it just means I have to subtract in a certain order. So I need to do the second one minus the first one. So the second y, 6 minus 3, and then on the bottom, second x minus the first x. So -1 minus -4. Be careful with the signs there. Make sure it's minus a negative. So I should get 3 over top of, that gives me plus a positive, so it becomes a positive 3. So my slope is 1, that's my m. And then I can choose the ordered pair that I want to use. I'm going to go through 1, 6. So y minus my y coordinate, which is 6, is equal to 1 parentheses x minus my x coordinate, which is -1. Before I do anything else, make sure I change that to a big plus sign. Then I can distribute and get my y by itself. Add the 6 to the other side to get y is equal to x, or 1x plus 7. When in doubt on any problem is if you can graph the thing, graph it and figure it out. We can use our graphing calculators, or we can use a website called Desmos. I'll show you kind of both here. So with the first one, I want to graph the equation y is equal to -2x plus 3. And so easiest way to do this one is, again, just to jump on the graphing calculator, hit my y equals button, and plug in -2x plus 3. I can go to my table. There's my table. And I can plot from -2 to +2 using that as my ordered pairs. So again, when I get here, I can copy down my XY chart, 0, 3, -1, -2, 1, and 2. And so when I do that, I get, down, so I go 1 and -1, and then 5 and 7. So my graph, -2, +7, 5, 3, 1, and -1. So my graph should look something like this. Where does it cross the x-axis? Somewhere in between 1 and 2. With the second one, again, same thing with quadratics. I can do the same thing. Where it says roots, write solutions. So sols, the solution or the roots or the zeros are all the same thing. On a graph, it's my x-intercept, where my graph crosses my x-axis. So when I graph this one, again, I can do the same thing. I can plot it on my graphing calculator. Go -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. -2, -1, -1. Let me check to make sure I'm doing this right. But again, you guys can do it by yourselves. Just go x squared minus 2. Yeah, and then 2 and 2. If I wanted to add another point, I could do 3, 7, and -3, 7. And so when I graph that, should get something looking like this. 2, 2, and 7, and 7. And so again, I got a parabola looking like this. And so I know that the zeros, the roots, the solutions to this graph are going to be where it crosses the x-axis, and that's going to be on those 2 points right there. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you how to graph using Desmos, because this is a really easy way to graph. If you just go to desmos.com on your laptop or on your, I think you can do it on your phone as well, hit the Start Graphing button, and literally all you have to do is just type in. So I'm actually going to do that same equation. I'm going to hit x squared minus 2. And what it's going to give me over here is, it's going to give me my graph. And the cool thing about this is the graph will show you your vertex of your parabola, which is sometimes something that's asked. And then it'll also give me my solutions, which is where my graph crosses my x-axis. So I know that my solution to this equation is going to be 1.4 and negative 1.4. So this is going to be something that's pretty handy to be able to use. We'll actually go ahead and use it on the next problem, since this is a little bit easier. So with the next problem, over on the back of the notes, these are the two equations that I want to graph, and then I want to figure out where they cross each other at. And so what I can do is, again, using Desmos, I can plug this in here. So I've got y is equal to, there we go, x parentheses x minus 3, and again, just plug it in just like it looks on there, squared. And then my other one, I can just tap there, and I can go y is equal to x minus 1. And so again, on my graph, I can just kind of look at it. I can zoom in or zoom out, but it gives me, these are where my graphs cross each other at. The ordered pair 2, 1, and 5, 4. So those will actually be the solutions for question number 3. So write down those two ordered pairs, 2, 1, and 5, 4. And again, this also gives me my intercepts, which doesn't really matter on this problem, but what I'm trying to do is find where my graphs intersect, so this one does it. With question number 4, again, same thing. I can go through my Desmos calculator. I can go y is equal to 0.5 times 3, let's see, how do you do an exponent on this though? That's the only trick. That's not what I want. Oh, here we go. 3 to the x power. So I hit that a to the b power, and that gives me this. This gives me my graph. Again, I can zoom out and find, this is obviously going to be exponential growth. I'm looking at it going from left to right. This thing is growing as I'm going from left to right, so this would be an exponential growth. You can circle that on your note sheet as well. Trick is, if you do have to graph this, it's not quite as easy to graph if you have to graph it like on a piece of paper or anything like that. So that's where you'd want to use your graphing calculator. So I'm going to hop back over. I'm going to use my graphing calculator to actually graph ordered pairs for this one. And so when I graph this, again, I'm going to go 0.5 times 3 caret x, and then graph it. So I have a XY chart that looks something like this. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. 0.056. -1 is 0.167. 0 is 0.5. And I've got 1.5 and 4.5. So again, I can just kind of guess where these are at. I know that -2 and -1 are going to be really, really small numbers. 0.5 here, 1.5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And so I have a graph that's going to look something like this. Up like that. So just in case you do need to graph it, you can still use your graphing calculator. Desmos doesn't have a table feature, which makes it a little difficult to do that. The next two, again, I'm going to use Desmos because I think it's really, really easy. So I'm going to graph the two equations. So I'm going to go y is equal to 3. And then I'm going to go x is equal to negative 5. Let's see, to do a negative, can I go minus 5, negative 5? Yeah, there we go. And so seeing where those two lines cross each other at is going to be the ordered pair negative 5, positive 3. See, I can just see that I have a vertical and a horizontal line. And then the last one here, this one's a little difficult because I am going to have to graph it. So I'm going to start on my graphing calculator first. And so on my graphing calculator, if I graph these two lines, the first one I'm going to do is going to be the first top one I'm going to do in red, the bottom one I'm going to do in blue. So the red line that I have here, I'm going to graph it just like I would an equation. So I'm going to go x and y. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. Let's see, I've got 4, 5, 6, 3, and 2. Like that. So when I graph those points, negative 2, positive 2, and it's just up 1, right 1. Again, that's my red line, so I'm going to draw that one in red. The one thing that I'm going to have here that I'll probably be able to see in my Desmos is, since the sign, the inequality sign, is just a greater than, not a greater than or equal to, it's going to be a dotted line. When I do the other one, again, same thing, 0, negative 1, and that's going down 2, so I'm going to go negative 3, negative 4, 1, and 3. Did I do that right? Oops, nope, this one's not right. It's going down 2, so it'll be going up 2. No, I was right. Okay. Negative 2, positive 3, negative 1, positive 1, 0, negative 1, patterns down 2, right 1, and then with this one, this is my blue line, and so again I can draw my line just like this. It's going to be a solid line, and so I've got my two lines, and then all I have to do is, since they're inequalities, I have to figure out where the shading is happening, and so this is one that is really easy to do on Desmos, so I'm going to leave this. What's going to happen is I'm going to have shading overlapping, so I will put in, so if I name them 1, 2, 3, and 4, there are 4 parts of my lines, like where the graphs cross each other at. I have 4 sections, and what I can do is I want to figure out which one's going to be shaded, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so when I jump over here to Desmos, what I can do is, again, I can just plug in exactly what they have up here. So y is greater than x plus 4, and then here I can go y is less than or equal to negative 2x minus 1. So there's my two graphs, and so if I look here, I should be able to see that my red line, the dotted line that we had put on there, is being shaded this region, so it's being shaded above. And then my blue line here is being shaded this side of this line, of the blue line. And so what I have is I have shading overlapping in this piece right here. I should do it in a better color. So right here is where my overlap is happening. So I know that, I think I named that one 4, I think. And so that's where I should go ahead and shade. This is a really easy way, even without me coloring it in, you can kind of see that that's where the blue and the red shading overlap at. And that's an easy way to do graphing systems of inequalities.